If you have been wanting to try press-on nails, but you don't like how unnatural they look, well, then I got you. What's up, nail crew? It's Nicole, your fellow nail-obsessed DIYer. Today we are doing press-on nails and how to make them look natural. I have gotten so many requests on videos like show me how to make them look natural. I feel like, mine always look too bulky or they look like, a kid did them, something. I had a consultation, if you can call it that. Basically, I reached out to a couple of my nail friends who do absolutely amazing press-ons that look super natural, and I got all the tips and tricks from them that I didn't know about, ones that I had no idea, and I am going to share everything with you. So the first thing that you want to do when you're getting press-ons, you need to make sure that they really fit to your natural nails, because you definitely don't want there to be a huge gap in between your natural nail and the press-on, or else that's going to make them look unnatural. So the Apres natural ones for me actually are the only ones that fit my big ass thumbs. All right. My thumbs need a 000 and it just fits. And I was so excited to be able to finally do some press-ons to show everybody. So when I was setting my press-ons on my fingers, you want them to fit sidewall to sidewall. You don't want them to be thinner than your natural nails. If anything, you want them to be a little bit bigger, because what we're going to do is we are right now filing and shaping them to blend exactly to our natural nails. And this is huge. So if you want to do press-ons and you want them to look natural, these are the steps that you need to do. So one of the tips that my friends gave me were to file the back and the sides of the nail. Even though they have a natural curve to them, if you file them down a bit on the back and the sides, it's going to help them look more natural and they'll sit more flush to your natural nails. So I was like, okay, got it, done, absolutely. So that's what I did first, and that's part of prepping the nail. Now, not only do you want to file down some of the back and sides, you want to keep setting it down against your natural nail to make sure that it fits exactly to it. So the curve to the bottom of your cuticle might not be rounded. It might be a little bit more square. You want to take your hand file and just make it fit. So if you need one side to be filed down a little bit more, if you need the cuticle line to be a little bit flatter, or maybe your cuticle lines are really curved, so you need it to be more curved. Those are all the steps that are huge in getting your press-ons to look more natural instead of like floating fingers that are set on, like, like the little press-ons we used to do as a kid. Once your press-ons are all set and ready to go, just set them aside, and then we're going to get into the prep, because this is super, super important step that you don't want to skip. If you want to wear your press-on nails for a long time, you're definitely going to want to file the underneath as well. Like you can take either some kind of skinny nail file or like a sanding band, and you can buff the underneath of the tip. Now, since I'm going to be wearing peel base and only wanted these to last for like, a day or two, I wasn't worried about prepping the underneath. That's another way that you can get your press-ons to last for a long time. I did a quick dry nail prep, and I have a little bit of builder gel down on my natural nails, so I had to sand them down a bit more just so that the full covers would sit a little bit more flush to my natural nails. Okay, now we are jumping in to actually how to do them. And you can see that I have this really awesome press-on stand here. It is so nice. It's from SJ3 Designs. I am absolutely obsessed with it. Any other time that I've done press-ons, the stands are like pretty junky and low quality. This is the complete opposite of that. Like if you're going to be doing press-ons, I would highly recommend getting a nice quality one like this. I'll make sure everything that I use is linked in the description. I know I have so much in the video, so everything's going to be linked in the description for what I use, including these stands, the dip powders, everything. So I left in part of me spilling the dip powder because I'm super clumsy, and when I have gloves on, I'm a little bit extra clumsy. I don't know why, even though these gloves like fit to my hand exactly. So that's another thing. When you're doing press-ons, I would highly recommend wearing gloves, whether you're using gels like I am or whether you're using dip liquids. You don't want to get any kind of nail liquid, powder, anything on your hands, because the longer that it sits on there, the more likely you are to get an allergy, especially if you're using gels. So I was using gels and I knew it was super important. I'm going to do both my left hand and my right hand. So the left hand, we're going to like go all out with the design and do some really cool airbrushing that I'm going to show you how to do without a drop of gel. I am using gels to apply these just because I have to, when I use dip liquids, I have to wear a mask. I don't want to ever get dip flu, and I just didn't feel like wearing a mask. So I wanted to do these with gels. So here's my advice when you're doing the press-ons with dip powder. Whether you're using gel or dip base, apply the liquid as thin as you possibly can. Like literally, you should just have enough liquid to cover the nail. Then I lay my nail flat, whether it everything. I don't pour over for anything on a press on nail. I found that for me, doing laying the nail flat into the powder gives me the best evenness because I kind of very gently like rock the nail into the powder. So if it's a solid or a shimmer, I very gently kind of rock it in. And if it's a glitter flake or foil, I do it how I normally do. I just press it straight down. Now, after you do each nail, what you want to do is you want to do a full cure. So if you're using gels, you want to do the full cure at least 60 to 90 seconds. I did 90 for everything just because just wanted to make sure they were fully cured since I'm going to be putting them on my nails. So I cured everything for 90 seconds. And then as soon as you're done curing, if you're using gels, you take a stiff nail brush and brush off any excess. That's going to be key to keeping your press on nails looking natural with dip powders is by really brushing the excess powder off well. If you don't do that, they're going to end up looking a bit thicker and clumpier than they need to be. Each of them that you do, the nice thing about doing the press-ons is that you don't have to do any curing until you're done with all 5 nails. So after each layer I do on both hands, I would just fully cure. Now, when you're using glitters like I am on actually both sides, when you're using chunky glitters, I noticed that for me, it was a little bit harder to pick up as many chunky glitter pieces. So I just ended up going through and placing a couple, which I absolutely found was so easy to do on a press on that I did on my left hand. And then on my right hand, I used a smaller glitter. So it was really easy on the second layer just to make sure it was all filled in. And the nice thing about having gloves on is that you can move your glitters around with your gloves on. Do not ever touch your gel with your naked nails. Okay, I'm going to say this over and over. Repeatedly touching uncured gel on your skin or leaving it on your skin is going to lead to nail allergies. So once you get your 2 layers of your dip powder done, you've cured in between them. Then since we're using gels, instead of doing clear dip powder, because clear and gels don't mesh well, you do a layer of gel base. And that's what we're gonna use to do our buffing and filing and shaping. Once you do the layer of gel base, you fully cure it, wipe them off with isopropyl alcohol, and then you can get to buffing and shaping. Now, majority of what I did was with this flexible buffing block. You can use a smaller buffing block too. I just have really big hands, so for me, a flexible buffing block works so much better. You definitely want to focus buffing down the sides. So buffing down the sides of the nail and back at the cuticle is going to help it look more flush to your natural nail. I gave the top a little bit of a buff, but it really didn't need much since I was using gels, and I made sure that my gel base application was done nice and thin and nice and even. So the focus of what I'm doing here is making sure that I'm buffing down the sides of really the whole nail, except for, didn't really focus on the tip, like the edge of the nail. That was one of the pieces of advice that one of my nail friends gave me, was to really focus on this buffing it down, so that it has that nice curve to it and it doesn't end up looking like weird and, kind of like sitting flat like it's floating on your nails. I spent a lot of time buffing these nails, probably more than I actually spend buffing my natural nails, which was funny to me. Like everybody talks about how quick that press-ons are. That was not my experience because it took me a while to do all this. But we're gonna get into the airbrushing, and I'm using acrylic paints and distilled water. I did a bunch of research on YouTube and all these other places trying to find how I can do airbrushing without having to use gels, because even though I did the dip with gels, I know a lot of you can't use gels and want to do cool designs. So here are my tips on how to get a really nice airbrush. I followed this one tutorial on airbrushing on how to know if your airbrush liquid ratio is correct, and what you want to do is you want to pour it into like some kind kind of little container. And then you pour enough distilled water into it so that when you touch the sides, like you put some kind of toothpick, or I was using an orange wood stick, you touch the sides and you want it not to be like super runny, but you don't want it to drip down slowly. So you want like a medium drip. That's what I kind of did to play around with like how much I need. And then I just poured it right into the top of my airbrush machine, which I use a nicer airbrush machine. And oh my gosh, it was awesome. I did the white first because I wanted like a white outline. And then I did my blue, and I didn't even clean out the liquid holder. I just went right in with the blue and sprayed it until it started coming out blue. And then I had to just adjust like how thick or thin you want your airbrush to be. So that's something that's really great about using an airbrush machine, is that you can adjust, how wide your spray is or how thin your spray is. I'll be honest, I went a little too far over the white with the blue. So it wasn't quite as like auraed as I want it to be. I want it to be more of like a 3-color aura with the brown in the back and then the white and then the blue, but I still ended up loving how it looked. And now I'm going to show you how you can do little flowers. This is the first time I tried doing flowers with acrylic paints. I tried like watching a bunch of videos on YouTube about like making flowers and what are the easiest ways to do it. And of course I tried and it didn't come out anything like some of the videos I was watching, but I honestly forgot exactly what the people said to do, like in all these different videos. So I kind of ended up winging it. I remembered somebody like combined 2 colors, white with another color, and I thought that the flowers they did looked really cool. So I thought, okay, let me try combining the blue and the white to see if I can get like still a bluish white color. And I kept making the color at first like way too close to the blue that was in the aura background. My goal was to like build a bunch of different layers to make the flower look like it was kind of like blooming out, because I thought, okay, that'll probably be the easiest for me. So just trying to make little petals with the swoops of my brush, and I used a small angled brush and it was working like okay. I feel like, if I had better artistic skills, it probably would have looked more how I like, or how all these ones that I saw, on different YouTube videos and stuff look. But it was still so fun. The nice thing about doing it over the airbrush was I feel like it gave me a lot more leeway to make it look, more of like an abstract type flower. And I just kept layering the colors. So I do a little bits at a time, layer the blue, layer the white. So it looked like more dimensional of a flower. And at the end, the last thing I did was like more white and then a blue dot in the center. So if you're going to use gels to top, you have to wait for a while. That has to be completely dry. I did all of my other top coating on all my other nails and still waited a few extra minutes. I probably let that dry at least like 15 minutes before I floated the gel base over it. When you're applying your gel base over the other tips, you definitely want to keep it really thin. You can press down into the nail, but when you're putting the gel base over acrylic, you do not want to press hard into it. You have to be super gentle and float the gel base over top. So that's what I did, floated the gel base over top. And then once I did my gel base on all 10 nails, I did the gel top on all 10 nails, curing both. And then I wiped everything off completely with isopropyl alcohol. So even if you're using a gel top that is a no wipe, technically, like it doesn't leave a sticky residue after layer, you still should wipe it off. I saw Nail Tech do a test about the no wipe gels. They still left a little tiny bit of a residue on. So I always make sure I either wipe my nails with isopropyl alcohol or wash them before I go and do anything else with them. Since I had dipped the press-ons, I wanted to make sure the underneath was clean as well. My nails were all prepped before, so all I did was wipe them off with isopropyl alcohol, and now I'm applying peel base to them all. I went a little bit heavier on the peel base because I knew I only wanted to wear them for like a day, maybe 2, and I have to tell you, they only ended up lasting for literally maybe like 15 minutes. If you're using peel base underneath, you definitely want to make sure it dries before you try to put any dip base over top. So because I like to wear a mask when I use dip base, I decided to pull out some sensitive liquids, and they've been sitting for a couple months now, and definitely something must have happened to them sitting over the past like 2 months, because they were goopy and sticky and like really weird, not at all like when the first time I used them. And unfortunately, what that meant was my nails weren't really staying on. So the press ons were not staying very well. I held them on for like 30 seconds each one, and they just still popped off. I think it was maybe like 15 minutes, if even that, now that I'm thinking about it. So that was kind of disappointing. I wanted to wear them about a day, but I should have just put the mask on and used my regular dip base. Something that I do differently is I would do a layer of dip base over my entire nail and let it dry, and then do another layer of like nail glue or dip base to apply the press on with. I feel like this would make them last a lot longer, especially if you etch the inside of your press ons. Now that you know how to make your press-ons look natural, join me in the next video and we will talk about how to do more easy nail art. Thanks for joining me today, nail crew.